Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark, DJ Solitaire here with episode 73 of Retro Goa Explorations. In this weekly series, I present in every episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. For the last 6 months or so, we've been delving into the 96-97 season, from the autumn of 96 through to the summer of end of the summer of 97. At this time, I was living in London. It was a really formative time for me in the scene, and then also, of course, for the music and how things were evolving. And this track is the lone collaboration that I know of between these two phenomenal and legendary musicians. And this came to me on a compilation that I've already presented a couple of tracks from that was, as I stated at the time, the first promo CD that I received um, while I was there. And that was a real kind of, yes, finally getting some new hot unreleased music. It was a Matsuri compilation, Resonance Mood. That's the promo. That's the released one, which looks very different in terms of graphic, right? What was going on there? It was kind of the cool mandala thing, which would be used later on in Mitsuri. I've got a really nice poster of that. But this is a track that really became a major favorite of mine at the time, and more recently, I played it at ZNA 2017. Actually, I did my set with it. It's Slugfest by Slug, which is a really regrettably short-lived collaboration between Tsuyoshi Suzuki, right, the head honcho at Mitsuri, still, and Gus Till, who at the time was just, was becoming part of Slinky Wizard, but also did Bus and a number of other incredible projects. A phenomenal, genius musician who I also met for the first time around that time. I can't remember if it was somehow in my mind I've got like January, February 97. You all know sort of the way my brain works with dates. But it was sometime I'd been in London a few months, knew Tsuyoshi. So I can't remember if it was before or after that Paris, which is when we really got to know each other. In January 97. But he called me up and said, let's go for dinner. There's some folks in town. And there was Nick Taylor, Andrew Till, and Gus Till. Gus Till living in town, Andrew Till, his brother, the genius behind Psy Harmonics, passing through. So we had some great sushi dinner and got to meet them. And Gus is just like the friendliest guy. He was one of the friendliest, certainly the only person I met at Flying Rhino. And he invited me to have a tour of the Flying Rhino studios, which I did. But I digress. This track became one of my favorites because, of course, with Boundless being, one of the most epic tracks, really groundbreaking at the time. There's a similar kind of vibe that's going on here, but of course, different because, we've got different musicians at the helm. Tsuyoshi working with, in this case, with Gus instead of with Andy Guthrie. But it's got incredible drive and power and momentum and tension, and it's just really uplifting in a way that's just completely devoid of cheese. This is really the way I like my music. Uh, lactose intolerant physically as well as musically. Gus sent me a few wonderful notes about this. He remembers quite a lot. He thinks it was done around September 96. So this would have been, again, just after or around the time of that Return to the Source party in New York. It's possibly before or after, but sometime around then when Boundless was in the can, had already been made. And it was done, I'd met Tsuyoshi working at Butterfly Studios and had just spent a glorious summer in Ibiza with predominantly the tip crew. When I got back to London, went and stayed at Tsuyoshi's in Brixton, where he was living with June and others. June Sogabe was an amazing graphic designer, part of the Organics trio that did all of the graphic design for Mitsuri. I knew June you know, for years. I knew him in Tokyo as well before and after that. And sadly passed away about a decade ago of cancer. So we sat down in his studio to make a banger, as one does. It was all the usual kit everybody had at hand back then, Akai samplers, etc. The big lead outro was the Korg MS-20, as I was wont to do in a lot of the tracks back in the 90s. Just as we got to the end of the track, we both looked down and this enormous slug had wandered in from the garden adjoining the studio. Obviously wanted to get down with its bad self and boogie away in the manner that slugs do, I guess. For some reason, this just cracked us up. You do get a bit delirious after focusing intensely on finishing a track, as you did back then before everything was in the box. And you could just simply return to it later, right? Because again, you know, all of the synths had to be set. They had to hold the settings. There was no, you know, this, when everything's done on the computer, you can go between tracks. But, you know, when everything was manual, right? So they worked intensely to get these tracks done. And Gus said, I said Slugfest, and that was that. Right. So now the fest part of Slugfest, I want to add, is taking us back to something I've mentioned before, where these parties really felt like a celebration and this kind of cosmic carnival kind of atmosphere. And of course, I think, you know, there's the concept now, of course, you know, parties there to celebrate and yippee yahoo and we're dancing and so on. But I think there was that, you know, when you think about Matsuri and what Matsuri means, it's actually the Japanese word for festival. So, you know, and every year in Japan, they've got tons of festivals or all these different themes. And so, you know, for me, this was always something that really stuck in terms of how these parties, not festivals at this point, because it really wasn't, the festival thing wasn't really quite a thing then. But it was a festival atmosphere, a carnival atmosphere, a celebratory atmosphere. You've heard me using all of these words before in discussing this. So, so I really like that. And, you know, here we go, Slugfest. So let's give this track a listen. I think it is, of course, a great one, because otherwise I wouldn't be featuring it. It was really, yeah, it really was one of my favorites at the time, of course, because, you know, having anything unreleased was great. And it's a fantastic track. There was a Daniel Pool shop. It was kind of this, you know, fancy shop that did clothes and also had a hair salon downstairs. And they had a DJ station set up there, sponsored by Newmark. And so there was this giant, like, Newmark sort of on the wall, and then this platform up and this DJ station. I knew somebody who worked there, and she got me in there basically able to play, you know, during the day, just as background music. Which I did once a week to sort of, you know, do the DJing out of the bedroom. And so Tsuyoshi came with me one time and pointed out, Newmark, that's you, haha. And I was like, okay, he's here. I should put on something, you know. And I remember I played Loin King, and I think I did that or Brainstorm from Jaya into Slugfest. And Tsuyoshi kind of remembers, like, or clicks this track. I really do love this track. It's really a great track. So let's give this a listen. Slugfest by Slug, aka Gus Till and Tsuyoshi Suzuki. Cool. Like, again, all of those things, they sound like laser zaps, but they also sound like voices. Just a beautiful combination of sounds in this cool arrangement. Love that. And a gnarly voice. Great rhythm. You got Tsuyoshi there with his percussion background. There's the cool rhythm, and then it's in a different key now than the introduction. It's kind of cool. So again, you know, you just get this pattern repeated, right? Occasionally, so it becomes like a mantra. And I love the way it's something toneless. It's just got the pitch, and then it turns into a note. And then this. And then echoes of Boundless. And notice that rhythm. Again, back when bass lines were different in every track. And I just love the way these sounds just evaporate. Right, so you have this chugga chugga. Notice the different textures. And again, how the delineation is also clear. You hear all these layers. New one coming in down. Again, everything sounding like voices. You know, if you close your eyes and just start listening to this as mimicking speech. And how the rhythm changes, right? It's not everything on the 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got some cool ones coming in here. The rhythm of this, it's kind of insistent and again also kind of celebratory, excited, electric kind of energy. This is really the sound that I remember from first times I heard Tsuyoshi playing in Japan in 94 and 95. This kind of really incredibly intense electric atmosphere. Love that extra emphasis there, not on a main beat. It's on the 8th beat. Again, we noticed that in Maya by Palladians. Right? This sort of emphasis on a weak beat. And then this cool break. Right, break beats were starting to move in quite gently to the scene at that point, and this is a really cool little interlude. With that extra little note there too. And then we're gonna have a cool new voice coming here. Right, and again, the tension of how this sounds, how this ramps up. Again, it's one of those, like, you think it can't go higher, and it keeps going higher. And then, comes back down. We got that bass line in there. This is all such a brilliant introduction and sort of a lead-in, you know, the storyline heading into this unbelievable riff that's coming in on the next break. And here we go. Just this kind of static electricity, these electro thunderbolts shooting through the speakers. I mean, it's just nothing like this being made now. And that step, those steps climbing, it's sort of, and then another round. It's that kind of cyber rock, right, kind of sound that I love. So there's all this stuff going on simultaneously again. I know I say this every time, but really. And then another little break. Voice like, and now we have this little one sneaking in. We have that still going on, and this lower voice is building. So we've got these other sounds that we've heard before, while this lower voice starts becoming more prominent. A little laugh going on there. And then, like, all these different voices communicating with one another. It really does sound like an alien party. And another little break here. love this. Listen to the incredible like logic of these transitions, not really breaks. Have that climbing. A little cosmic laugh. And again, incredibly affirmational, uplifting, celebratory, you know, that really, it doesn't need to be cheesy to raise the mood. It doesn't have to be all just major chords in order to raise the mood. Now this track starts heading into its climax. The rhythm and the textures, right? That's that real palpable texture to that cyber electric riff. And now again, this uplifting. What can you say, right? I mean, it's just so heart-opening, arm-raising, spirit-enlivening music. And then we start the unwind here. So notice how that voice continues. And there's that long exhale at the end. Just the tension work. Masterpiece. I mean, why didn't they write an album together? I mean, this is just, yeah, they're busy. Tsuyoshi was away a lot, right? So having him in the studio was probably, I think it was harder, right? Because he was just traveling every weekend. So it takes a lot out of you as well. And it's hard to focus on the tracks and the settings need to, you know. So this is one of the reasons. But wow, I wish they'd produce some more together because this is just incredible, uplifting, celebratory, cosmic, driven but not aggressive. I mean, it's just got all of the best qualities of the tracks. You know, what the music and the scene, I think, is really all about, right? Consciousness expanding, heart opening, and, you know, enlivening, celebratory, and all that stuff. I was going to say all that jazz, but I guess it's all that trance. So there we are. Really happy to finally get around to sharing this wonderful track. Thanks, Gus, for sharing your memories of it. So I'm going to sign off here and I'm going to leave the whole track without my commentary. I'm Mark, DJ Solitaire, leaving you now with the wonderful collaborative work by Tsuyoshi Suzuki and Gus Till, Slugfest.